I don't embarrass easily. Many years ago, I competed in the New York City triathlon. I came in third to last, not even last. Friends who are much better athletes than I am said they would never have done it if they didn't think they could do well. I didn't care. I had a great time in the back of the pack, and I was really glad that I got to do it. When I was a young girl, I didn't learn how to read from the Torah. And so as an adult, I taught myself the Torah trope, and I got around to leaning as much as I could, reading the Torah in the traditional melody. I decided I wanted to read every single aliyah in the Torah. And last year, I threw myself a party for having read all of the Torah in the traditional melody. I have to admit, I made a lot of mistakes, but there was always someone right next to me to correct me whenever I needed a correction. Pirkei Avot teaches, Ein habayshan lamed. Someone who is embarrassed doesn't learn. I'm lucky. I've gotten to learn and do a lot. But there are some areas of my life where I haven't always felt as free. As a woman who was single, well into my 40s, I often felt marginalized by the Jewish community. I would go to events and I would feel like there wasn't really a place for me. And there were moments where I wasn't even included in certain kinds of events. People would say things to me like, oh my God, how could you not be married? We have to find you someone. Someone once even asked me, so, are you depressed about it? I guess she thought I should be. There were many moments where I let being single make me feel exposed, embarrassed, and even at times ashamed. But then I started to hear from others in the Jewish community who, while not single, were feeling the same way. Students, congregants, colleagues, friends, all felt like they didn't fit into some traditional mold in our community. People who felt like they hadn't had a traditional background, or people whose families didn't look like they thought everyone else looked. Or people who felt like their bank accounts didn't measure up. They talked about feeling shame in our community. Please, life is hard enough before you start comparing yourself to other people. It's hard enough to struggle in a marriage or look to find work without adding shame on top of that. But it turns out that shame is one of those feelings that a lot of people are feeling today. Brené Brown's talk on shame has been viewed by over 5.5 million people. We're not the first generation to feel shame. Our most holy text, the Torah, talks about shame as the very first emotion that ever appeared on the planet. In chapter 2 of Genesis, we learn that Adam and Eve in the garden had no shame. Lo yit bo shashu. Only when they ate from the fruit did they notice that they needed the fig leaves. Only when they ate from the fruit did they notice that there was something to be ashamed of. Look, sometimes a little humility is a good thing. Some shame is a little healthy. Da lifnei mi ata omed. Know before whom you stand. Have a little humility and put on a fig leaf when it's appropriate. But appropriate humility is very different from what self-help gurus call toxic shame. And the Mishnah and the Talmud understood that kind of shame deeply. Our rabbis say that someone who shames another person in public, it's as if he is a murderer. Hamalbin pnei chavero berabim ke'ilu shofech damim. The Talmud talks about the kind of payment that one needs to pay when someone injures another person. They have an entire category of financial remuneration for shame, boshet. The rabbis intuitively understood that shame blocks a person from reaching his highest potential. that shame prevents someone from being her best self. Jewish tradition offers us a daily opportunity for spiritual, personal change, tshuva. One obstacle that gets in our way when we do tshuva is when we say we want to change an aspect of ourselves, and we hold on to the very thing we know we're supposed to change. Kind of like saying you're on a health kick and holding a cigarette to your mouth. The rabbis call this kind of person someone who is tovel v'sheretz beyado, someone who dunks into a mikveh, someone who dunks in a ritual bath and holds on to the very essence of impurity, a sheretz, a dead reptile. You could dunk in an entire planet of living waters. You will never get pure until you drop the sheretz. You will never change until you let go of that thing you're holding on to. Drop the dead reptile and find real tshuva. But the problem is not what we think the problem is. The sheretz in our hands is not the bad marriage or the difficult job performance. That's not the thing we need to drop. The sheretz in our hands, the very thing we need to drop, is the shame. Only when we let go of that shame will we really be able to do serious tshuva, to make real personal change in our lives. So how do we do that? First, let's try to understand, where does shame come from? Whose fault is it? When I felt shame about being single, was it the community that was making me feel that way? Or was it something inside of me that was making it bubble up? I want to suggest that it's both. First, the community can make us feel like we're not enough. Think about the world we live in. High expectations, super high achievement, rapid changing. Everyone is always supposed to be their best. We live in a world where getting a silver in the Olympics is a disappointment. You're in the Olympics. You're better than almost everyone in the world. And you're disappointed. It seems like the world always wants us to strive for more, do better. Make it the best you can possibly be. But what if we were to just say, everyone is just fine? What if we were to live in a community where everyone is accepted just as they are? What if we were to act like every single day is Yom Kippur? Where we say on Kol Nidre that we are here im ha'avaryanim. We are here with those who have sinned. Whatever anyone in this room has done, you're welcome here. Whoever anyone in this room is, you belong. That would make a community that would feel different, that would feel powerful. But changing the community is only one part of the equation. When the Torah talks about Adam and Eve, it uses a verb that is actually reflexive. Lo yit bo shashu is a Hebrew word that is hitpa'el. It's self-referential. We think that shame happens around other people, but in fact, shame is about focusing on ourselves. Shame is a way of saying, I'm all I think about. Shame is just another form of narcissism. It's the bald man who walks into a party and only sees men with hair. Or a single girl who walks down the street and sees only couples. In order to get rid of shame, we have to get out of ourselves. The mystical book, the Zohar, talks about a human condition known as Nahama Dikisufa, the bread of shame. According to Kabbalah, each of us is like a beggar on the street, receiving so many gifts and not knowing how to repay them. We feel embarrassed. We feel like we're getting a handout, and we can barely look the donor in the eye. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai offers a way out of this dilemma. He says, you want to feel less shame? Honor the donor. And in fact, that's a way we can get out of our shame. Think of the beggar who looks the donor in the eye and says an honest thank you. He develops his own sense of honor, according to the Zohar. And there's another way of getting out of this mess of being a beggar. First, we say a hearty thank you. Then we pass on what we've been given. Think of the beggar who gets a piece of bread and hands a piece of it to another person. Immediately, he feels a sense of relief. That's how we get out of our shame. We get grateful, and we start passing on our gifts. And then when that feels hard, we ask for help. The line in our prayers that we say each day is, God, help us not to feel ashamed. V'lo nevosh leolam va'ed. And look at where it appears in our prayers. In the Ahava Rabbah paragraph, right before the Shema. V'ha'erinenu b'toratecha. Help us to feel lit by your Torah. V'dabek libenu b'mitzvotecha. And help us to cling to your mitzvot. Help us to want to do the actions that are most important to you, God. V'lo nevosh leolam va'ed. When we do the actions, we lose the shame. Or the other place that this appears is in the middle of our Amidah. Al hatzadikim al chasidim. For all the righteous people. God, watch over them. Give them a reward. V'sim chalkeinu imahem. And put our place with them. V'lo nevosh. And we will not be ashamed. Everyone wants to be counted among the righteous. We all want to be seated at the table with the best. But in order to do so, we have to get out of ourselves. We have to start taking actions that get us out of ourselves and into the world. We have to start getting grateful and taking those actions. Fun fact. I'm not single anymore. Funner fact. I stopped having shame about being single years before I met my beshert. Sure, I had difficult moments, but I started realizing that the shame was just a focus on myself. I started feeling grateful for all the gifts I did have, and I started thinking about how I could pass on those gifts to other people. Before you knew it, the shame went away. And by losing the shame, I became freer to feel more gratitude and take more actions. It's an amazing cycle, and it's a much better way to live. So try this. Walk into a party, a synagogue, an event, and drop the sherets. Drop the shame. Think about what gifts you have to offer, and try to think about how you can pass those gifts along. And then look around. I guarantee you, someone could use your gifts. When we start focusing on how we can help others and not how we compare to others, we will earn ourselves a place among the righteous. V'sim chalkeinu imahem. V'lo nevosh leolam va'ed. And we will never have to be ashamed again.